Welcome to the big kick-off sports bar with myself, Roy Shanahan, Nathan Doyle and Neil Dobbs on a day where the Ukraine and Ireland drew 1-1 in Poland. And Nathan, it's actually a good thing to see, isn't it, that we have come away with a draw, a little bit disappointed but also proud in the way we played.
Yeah, I think satisfying was the word that came to mind for me, Roy, when the full-time whistle went, in terms of just a very diligent performance, very organised, especially in the middle of the park. I think we did take our foot off the gas in the second half, and conceding 90 seconds into the second half, we certainly done ourselves no favours. And then going in, seeing the likes of Jason Knight and Jason Malumbi come off for Hendricks and Horahan, that was more of a signal, I think, that Kenny was happy enough for the draw, which it would be. You know, this is a credible Ukraine side with some Premier League players in there, even though they'd be tired after their busy schedule. But yeah, there definitely was a satisfying feeling off it, especially coming off the back of the Scotland performance on Saturday, which we're going to get into.
Absolutely. Neil, we're going to go straight into it, because Nathan Collins' goal was like a young Roy Shanahan back in the day. Like it was exactly what you're looking for from defenders now, to put themselves on the front foot, but not also just to put themselves on the front foot, be able to play football. And that's what we're looking for from our defenders now. They can't just be defenders, although he's a bloody good defender.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest, right? The first touch he took when he came into the midfield and came onto the ball, like, he snuffed out the danger. Wasn't enough for him just to kind of launch a ball or play something wide. He drove at the heart of defence. He turned two of them inside out, and then he finished with the outside of the boot. It was an absolute great finish, cracking finish. Just a composure when you get into the last, just for that last shot, the outside of the right boot. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And let's hope that's a bit infectious and that it rubs off on the rest of his teammates.
And it's two goals that got us off our seat, you know, at the weekend and tonight. They're two goals that nearly shocked us. That an Irish player is dribbling by two or three players, an Irish player is hitting a shot from, you know, nearly 30 yards and scoring. And after the two games, Nathan, that they had at the start of the campaign, to finish off with these two games it's a big plus, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a big one now heading into the summer. It was looking really doom and gloom, especially after that Armenia game. We're absolutely woeful. There's no excuse behind that one. And even against the Ukraine, back in the Aviva, you know, this was a second string Ukraine side that we were playing in the Aviva Stadium last week. But yeah, definitely badly needed. You could see the Kenny out for good just coming back again. But yeah, for me, again, repeating ourselves what I say every time, you have to stick with them until the end of the next European campaign. But I think, yeah, these two results, I don't know, this draw tonight, even though the 3-0 win over Scotland was absolutely brilliant, I am more satisfied with this draw here tonight, just in the manner that they went about it, away from home. Like, I know it was a neutral ground for both sides, but yeah, really difficult away tie, and would have snapped your hand off for the draw to begin before any of the games kicked off. But yeah, it was really, really excellent performance tonight, and same with the Scotland game. Yeah, there's definitely a good buzz coming in off the back of the four games.
And what do you think, Nathan? What's the difference between the Ukraine game at home and the Ukraine game away?
Yeah, see, it's hard to pin down, isn't it, with the change. It was always going to change teams. Just we had a lot of dropouts, teams of injuries. Like, the lads are coming off the back of a long season. I think the formation that we've seen go with Scotland, and he implement that again tonight, he seems to be comfortable with that. I thought Alan Brown in particular this evening was really, really impressive. He was probably one of the standout players for me. As you said, Nathan Collins on both occasions was excellent. Jason Knight coming into the team, even though he didn't finish out the game this evening. Just players like that coming in, for me, made a big difference.
Yeah. Neil, is it the fact that Ireland, when you look at the first two games and you've looked at the last two games, that there's a sign there that the changing of the guard is what's needed? We had a lot of older regular players who, the likes of Coleman, Hendricks, I know Horahan didn't get in the first games, but those type of players who got switched out, and the younger lads who, well, I couldn't understand Jason Knight not being in at the start. I couldn't understand Malumbi not being in at the start, because Hendricks is not a sitting midfielder. He's not someone who's going to break the play up. He's someone who gets on the ball, and he might do well, you know, as an attacking midfielder. But put him in beside Josh Cullen, we've seen what happened. So is there this changing of the guard now, and will those players find it hard to get back in?
Yeah, and I mean, right, we all expected this to happen maybe a couple of games ago or a couple of months ago or this time last year because Kenny had to come in, put his stamp of authority on the team, put his own players into the team. And I mean, there's an element of trust gone in there, I think, in the younger lads, especially the likes of Troy Parrott, Cullen, Malumbi, Knight, these lads now. These have to grab your attention, have to grab their spot on that team. And I think you are kind of alluding to it there when Jeff Hendrick came on, completely different player, where the three lads in the middle are always on the front foot, they're always engaged, and they just have fresher, faster legs. Their brains are thinking quicker, they're on the ball, they're on the front foot. And it seems to me they're a Stephen Kenny type of player, the way he wants to play across the middle. So I think it's only natural now you'll see these guys, as you're saying, the Hendricks and the Horahans and that begin to drop out of the team. It'll be more interesting for me what he does with the back line now, because you still have a couple of lads there where the likes of Collins coming in tonight now and absolutely grabbing his opportunity with both hands. You might have worried before the game that you were missing Duffy, but all of a sudden, you have another hope coming in there. You've Matt Doherty that wasn't even in there tonight. I thought Brown did very well. Seamus Coleman. So you have a couple of these guys that are on the fence where even James McLean, actually, it'd be nice to have another option wide left as well, like Alan Brown did tonight. But it is a change of the guard. It's a much needed change of the guard. If they want to play a little bit more, I heard a lovely term tonight. Kenny Cunningham said it, which is defending from the front. So no longer are we sitting back and soaking up pressure. If you want to play defending from the front and you want to run at teams and you want to press them a little bit higher, you need more legs. You need younger, fresher faces in order to carry out the game plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we think,
Nathan, yeah, far away.
Just going back to what you were saying there, Neil, about Shane Duffy. Do you think he'd be a little bit nervous looking at it here, because like seeing with Nathan Collins' goal, how comfortable he is with the ball at his feet and pushing on. John Egan be similar, Darragh O'Shea be similar. I think that'd be the one criticism I'd have of Shane Duffy is he's comfortable. He's not comfortable at centre half on the ball himself. We know the aerial threat that he brings to set pieces.
Yeah.
But if he's seeing these centre halves come in that are more comfortable on the ball, but not only that, playing regularly at club level as well, which Shane he's been struggling to do a little bit at Brighton. Would you think he'd be a bit nervous going forward about his position?
I'd be worried if I were Duffy, just being on the ball, Nathan. Do you know a way where you've seen against Scotland a few times we tried to play out from the back and we really got ourselves in a horror show, and most of that came from Duffy trying to play the wrong ball into the middle at the wrong time. Whereas Collins tonight, now bear in mind, I don't think we tried to play from the back tonight. Most of the goal kicks were sent long by Kelleher, and accurately long, I might add. So, yeah, I think definitely a more comfortable, more composed centre-back to play that style of football. But obviously, as you said, Duffy has his own attributes where he was an aerial beast against Scotland on the weekend, and you can't deny that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, we were relying on Duffy heavily for the goals, weren't we? Before Oban Jemmy and so came into the team.
But it shows, though, if you look at the players, Nathan, you talk about goals, you look at the players, you had Ogbene, you had Parrott, and you had Callum Robinson up front for the first few games. That changed. Jason Knight, Parrott, and Obafemi. But then, of course, he changed the tactics a little bit where he got Knight to drift back in as a third midfielder. So that did change and help it. But again, Robinson's been up there. He's been that he's slotted into that centre forward role. We know he's not a centre forward, so he's been slotted into that centre forward role and has done a decent job there. Again, is this him drifting out now from being a centre forward? Ogbene is still raw. He's still someone who's, I suppose, final ball, the delivery in the final third, that he still has to master that. And someone like, as you see in Troy Parrott, you've seen with the other lads, they seem to have a little bit more guile about them.
Yeah, I think going forward, if I was to pick out a front three, I would like to see Parrott on the left, Obafemi down the middle, and Ogbene out right. I just think that combination of the three probably work best going forward. I don't know. I was sending on to you, Roy. Eamon Dunphy was quite critical on our pal Callum Robinson. Apparently, one of the most overhyped Irish footballers that you've seen in a long time. I wouldn't go that far with Callum. But yeah, I wouldn't be his strongest fan. Probably even out three of us. I really wouldn't be a fan of Callum Robinson. I'd rather Ogbene ahead of him. Just offers much more in terms of liveliness, but not liveliness the way we've seen with the young lad at Brighton. His name's gone in my head now.
Connolly.
Connolly, there you go. We constantly often see him aimlessly run down to the channels. With Ogbene, it's more of a heavy press, and there's a bit of a purpose behind what he does.
Would you rather Ogbene in there instead of Knight?
Ogbene on the right hand side, where I think if you see Knight be out on the left, where you'd be talking about him and Parrott. I think I'd rather Knight though further back in the midfield rather than out
It's
on the
the
left
difference between the 2 and a 3, though, isn't it?
See, I don't think he's playing the 3 up front now. Now he's playing 3 in midfield, and when we're attacking, Knight drifts into that attacking midfielder role. He just drops back down when we're defending, so he's kind of nearly playing with 2 up front. So you're gonna have to pick your 2 up front, and that's where does Ogbene fit into that? Yes, he can go up there. Yes, he can. His thing is about taking on players, beating players, and if he could learn to cross, he'd be one of the best players in the world. So I think that's his game. I don't know if he's suited to that centre forward role, so maybe he's going to have to look at in an Ireland team to be playing on a wing back role. But then again, is his defensive capabilities good enough now?
Yeah, well, this is the question. I mean, look, I think he's after pivoting. You know, this time last year we were going for a kind of a 4-3-3. Then it changed to a 5. Then it changed 3 at the back to wing back. So it kind of depends horses for courses for me. As you're saying there, in a 3 in attack, I'd have Ogbene on the right maybe. But in a 2 in attack like we've seen tonight, I think he probably got the call right. You might have Obafemi to come in there as well. I think Parrott's is just after something has matured in him over, and maybe it's the goal has done something for him now as well. But there's something mature about Parrott and his ability to hold the ball up, because the amount of times we not launched the ball, but played a clip ball into him, he was able to physically hold off a defender, keep the ball and recycle it, which again we have had trouble doing in the last maybe year and a half. If you cast your mind back to Adam Ida when he was up there, he was kind of a forlorn figure. You know, he was up there as a 5, but as a 1 more or less. There was no one getting up there with him. The 2 up front gives you that extra option of an extra pair of legs in beside you, and I think he got it absolutely bang on tonight. So I think at the minute it's Parrott, because he's put his trust into him. He's got a goal return, and then another, and it just depends. If he sticks with a 2, I could see it being who was up there tonight, Hogan, for example, or Obafemi up there maybe with him. But I don't think you're going to see Ogbene unless he goes back to the 3 up top, and then he would be an automatic choice for me to play wide right anyway.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
I say to Roy all the time, like you were mentioning Scott Hogan himself or Will Keane, I really do not see what either of them offer when they come into the Ireland setup.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on because we have a couple of messages through. First of all, good evening. Second of all, Jacob has a few points. He says, to be honest, Ireland and Armenia last game will be a decider. We could still get relegated. Absolutely. They'll be coming to the Aviva knowing a win will see them stay up and us go down. And he finishes off with, I would personally get rid of Kenny now, bite the bullet. Poor manager, poor record, need a proper experienced manager in international soccer, in my opinion. Okay, Nathan, do you want to start with the first part of that, which was the Armenia game being a decider? And we have played 4 games. The other 2, Ukraine and Scotland, have only played the 3. Ourselves and Armenia have played 4. So very well could come down to that game.
It very well could. Hopefully it doesn't now, because since that defeat to Armenia have gone on and lost their 3 games, and even before they play us, like Jacob was saying, it's the last game, so they're going to have a home tie against Ukraine. So hopefully it doesn't come down to that. Again, it's going off how we can do in September when we go to Scotland. We probably see a more refreshed Scotland team. They, like Ukraine, they're coming off the back of a World Cup playoff campaign, along with the back of a domestic season themselves. So yeah, very easily could. It's a bit of a knockdown, considering we're coming into this group talk of winning the group as a whole, gaining promotion, which probably be disastrous in the long term, wouldn't it, Roy? We're probably happy enough where we are at the moment in terms of standard.
Don't think we want to be going into the group A's, in all fairness, and we're not ready for that. But then again, we don't really want to be dropping down into the C either. So Neil, just work on, and I know Nate will want to pop in at this. What about the Stephen Kenny thing? Because the first 2 results did pop up a few people again that wanted, just like Jacob, wanted Stephen Kenny out. I wouldn't be one of them. I still think that there's a lot of progression in this team. It looks, from when you look at the two games, he got the personnel wrong for the first two games, so he's in the job and he's making mistakes. It's the Jeff Hendricks one for me was bizarre, to play him in centre midfield. Especially when he's playing three up front, you want two people who are able to get around. Malumbi is definitely one of them, and we can see that now. And this is not in hindsight; this is something that we're seeing. But when you look at Stephen Kenny over the 4 games, how do you look at him? How do you judge him?
Yeah, it's kind of too bad, too good, isn't it? So your 50% record is high and fly. But I don't know. Look, I think everyone was shell-shocked losing Armenia. Not necessarily losing to them, but it was the manner in which we lost. The performance was just, it was down. It was very, very poor. Ukraine, then we seemed leggy. We didn't have that same bite. And then you come out with Scotland and a completely different attitude, completely different aptitude, the way they applied themselves in the field, the way they got stuck in big challenges, and that's what led to the goal. So I'm just hoping at the moment, for me, Kenny can rally them now for the next 2 games, as Nathan was saying there, because they're 2 big games for him. If it had gone bad against Scotland, I think he would have been packing his bags. I don't think he could come back from that if it had been in the same ilk as the Ukrainian result. So I'm hoping now, with the good Scottish result, decent results and decent performance tonight, you have to stick with him at least to the end of the Nations League, and then you're hoping to set yourself up for the next tournament. So that's stick or twist time for me, whether he does enough on the back of this tournament to prove that, this Nations League, does he have enough to carry us into a campaign? And that's the bit, like, he's had one campaign which ended prematurely. You weren't even in with a shout of a qualifier, any sort of chance. That needs to be put right this time around. So the proof will be in the pudding the next 2 games, that it puts a little bit of pressure on them to make sure they come out on the right side and they head into the qualifiers then with a kind of a bit of steam behind them.
Okay, so it's a valid question, Nathan. How do you get international experience? Who would take the job with limited wage available? Yeah. So, and Jacob has put his bit in there as well, which is great. If you look at his record, it's so poor. Lost to Luxembourg, drew Azerbaijan, couldn't beat Bulgaria in 2 games in the last Nations League, and a Bulgarian side who drew at Gibraltar and Georgia in the last couple of games. They're on a slippery slope. We were level on points with Luxembourg in the last group games. He also says even Luxembourg beat Azerbaijan, beat twice. We drew with them at home, and he says in 8 games Serbia were like 11 points ahead of us. When you can't really look at the last campaign now, Nathan, can you? Because that was the one where you're kind of building the team, where you're bringing players in, that you're blooding them, that you're getting them used to it. And we always said that Stephen Kenny would be judged on this Nations League. We have to stick to that, don't we?
Yeah, this Nations League, and like we're saying, the Euro campaign that's coming up. I said it back when we were beaten by the likes of Luxembourg. I don't think we had any right to be beating Luxembourg, especially in the state that the squad was in back then, where we're seeing a bit more cohesion now, aren't we? There's consistency in terms of the faces that are coming in. That wasn't the point. That wasn't the fact back when we were playing Luxembourg and getting these bad results. Again, I do agree when you're looking even at the Belgium game, when we drew 1-0 with Belgium, that was a bit of a false dawn. It was a bit of a second string Belgium side, albeit he had a couple of, Yuri Tillemans and things like that.
Total second string side, really, in all fairness.
Yeah, but again, they were still missing their key players that they rely on heavily. There definitely is. You're going to have to come back to us on that one about the after the Euro campaign to really judge how Kenny's getting on. I've seen the likes of when we were beaten against Armenia and Ukraine, Sean Dyche's name was getting bandied around, and it's just not feasible. We're not going to be getting these high-profile faces in.
Would he be any better though, Nathan?
No, I think the standard of football will be going backwards, going back to the likes of Martin O'Neill. And in fairness, I'm going to have to get an England job in tonight at some stage, but there's going to be a job opening there for Sean Dyche in the FA at some stage. So
you might get Southgate if things keep going like that.
Fucking don't threaten me with a bad time like that,
Neil.
Neil, can you see positives? Can you see progression in the Ireland team?
Yeah, I think I can. I think, Roy, the problem is, and I understand, where people are coming from. We're off the back of a couple of really, really bad results, and you can't still get them out of your head because they're lingering there, the Luxembourg results. And I accept that, and I accept how bad the performances were, and what kind of a difficult time the team went through there for a while. But I do think we've come out of that, the other side of that, a little bit stronger. There's a little, I won't say a load of hope, but there's hope there that things are going in the right direction. The football is better. We're pressing on the front foot, is the expression I used earlier on. I don't think I can ever remember an Irish team pressing on the front foot with the forwards doing the pressing in there. And I hope that there's more of that to come. But it is a little bit
Neil, he's getting more pressing than Ralph Rangnick did at Manchester United, and he talked a great game. So
yeah.
But in all fairness, he's getting them working cohesively. They're working together, pressing together. It took a long time for that Ukrainian team to be able to get out their back or out their own half at times. Now, as this game went on in the second half and it started to stretch and it was going from one end to the other. But there's definitely a vast improvement on the way that we're putting pressure on teams to win the ball back.
Yeah, but if you look at it as well, Roy, look at what I would call a long ball tonight. Any ball that was distributed from Kelleher tonight, or any ball that we went maybe not 90, 70, 90 yards, but 40, 50 yards, they weren't the hopeful ones we used to play of yesteryear where Shane Long is running like a flipping idiot in behind the defence. It's not even aimed at him. Everything tonight had an element of control over it. You were playing the ball into Parrott's chest rather than his head. You were playing percentage balls if you're going to win to get territory up the field. So even that on its own to me is progression, because we're not playing these hopeless 70-yarders, the goalkeeper pushing everybody up. We're a lot calmer, but as I say, you're sticking or twisting with Kenny at the end of the day. There you go.
He's free, and he'd be within the wage bracket as well. And then of course Ollie Horgan would set his team up great against Azerbaijan. Of course.
That would really shake up the dressing room, wouldn't it? Ollie Horgan, Gavin Dykes and Paul Hegarty going in there.
Jacob backs down then.
Well, right, at the end of the day, to get a manager more experience, I do get that, and it's at international level. I still believe it or not, even the players that I think he's blooding at the moment that are coming good, I think you have to give Kenny a little bit of time to find his feet. So we've given Kenny enough time to find his feet, and even something small tonight, which I think he improved of straight off the bat. The Scotland game on the weekend where we were trying to play out from the back, and it just looked horrendous at times. We were asking to be punished, and then all of a sudden they stopped doing it. Someone made the call. They started going a little bit longer, getting out of their back line, and tonight to continue that trend. So maybe, we need to give him a little bit of time to learn as he goes as well.
And do you have to give him credit, Neil, for changing his formation and his tactics when it went into the Scotland game? As you said, he had 3 up front. He had 2 sitting in midfield, which was absolutely bizarre. I know he was trying to play 3-4-3, but it turned into a 5-2-3, and the 3 sat up front, gave no cover at all, really. And again, not that we were overrunning these games. I went to the Ukraine game in the Aviva. It wasn't that they blew us away or anything like that. It was a freak goal, and there was opportunities for both sides. We had our opportunities at the start. They had theirs in the second half, and they just ran out winners, and they were with that little bit of luck, I suppose, they went through. But again, it looked, the little tweak that he had done, dropping Knight back into midfield and then joining up with the 2 forwards, that gave us a different dimension to us. I suppose he has to get praise for that. He's not supposing. He does have to get praise.
Well, he does get praise, Ryan. I mean, even if you look tonight, the way he reshuffled the back line and he didn't panic, you're losing Duffy, you're losing your leader in the back, and the way they reshuffle and reset, the way he put Alan Brown out to wide right turned out to be a great decision tonight, because he was a calm pair of feet all night. He was really good on the ball. His distribution was good. And even when the speedy winger come on, he did a number on him as well, which you got to applaud. So, he's getting more time out of the legs of James McLean. I do give him a lot of credit for all that, but I still think you're going to get a lot of people that are sitting on the fence. And unfortunately, it is a results-based business. You need to get results. Now, maybe not so much for the Nations League, where you don't get relegated. You could probably draw a line under it. But for the next campaign, Ireland have to be at the business end. And I'm not saying winning a group, because you don't know what group you'll get. You get a seeded team that could be different class. But you have to be in the hunt for the qualifiers, the next round of qualifiers after that, finishing second and pushing. And I think that's where it's all going to come down the line for Kenny, whether he can turn the team into a tournament side.
Yeah. We have a message here from Kyle. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but the FAI have no money, which leads me to the question, Nathan. Ireland can't really afford to be getting relegated. Yes, you go into an easier group for the next Nations League, and that gives you an opportunity to push on and maybe get a place in the next Euros or what have you. But are you going to get the crowds? And that's where the FAI are getting their money from. We'll talk about just the tickets now. Jacob wants to talk about the European draw for League of Ireland. We'll go on to that just before we finish, Jacob. But when you look at the FAI have no money, Nathan, tickets for the game against Ukraine, and I looked up games for tickets for the Scotland game, 40,000 were in that stadium of a 50,000 seater stadium. 10,000 seats were empty. The majority of them were in the middle tier, and they were 90 and €100. They're ridiculous prices, aren't they?
Yeah, scandalous, absolutely scandalous. It's outpricing not only just world class, but even like yourself, Roy, someone with a young family wants to bring the kids. It turns into.
I'm gonna have to stop you there on that one, because
not working class, Roy.
No, I got a good deal of a family ticket for just over €100 for 2 adults, 2 kids. So I can't. But what I'm saying is, if you want to go and see a game and those tickets are sold out, and you've got 10,000 tickets they're not all the €100, but the majority of them are. No one's going to buy them, and they didn't buy them, and you're first of all losing money, and second of all you're losing atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. You might as well drop the prices down and get bums in them seats. And then, like you said, if you drop down, and you just see it on the marquee, you know, if Ireland are playing some of the calibre of Armenia in every single Nations League game, it's going to be such a difficult sell. But even in this group, the likes of Scotland, that's an easy sell, isn't it? Ireland versus Scotland, you know, the Celtic connection. Even Ukraine, big side, you get to see Yarmolenko, a couple of Premier League players coming in, where the more you drop down, you get into the Bosnias, you get into the Armenians, you get into the Georgias. Yes, it's going to be really difficult.
Jacob throws this up about ticket prices. Derry in Europe is £25 sterling. Derry fans are angry about this. That is unbelievable, isn't it? What's that, €30 close to for what would Shamrock Rovers and Pats be looking for?
I know St. Pat's for the adult prices are 15, which still you could drop it down to 10 if you really wanted.
No, leave it at 15. They have to make some money.
Yeah. No, just get them in. But yeah, £25. I actually didn't know that. Didn't know it was £25 sterling.
Sterling, that's €30. That's steep for them. But then again, they are investing quite a bit of money into that club. So, I mean, if they're willing to look at them investing money, maybe they need to be willing to pay a couple extra quid for the European games. It's not exactly. It's a night out. It's £30. It's not a bad night out, is it?
No, it's not. Now, and in fairness to Derry City, I've been really critical, and I will always be critical about the horrific standards of facilities that we do offer in the league. Where if you're going to go to Derry, like to Derry City and Shamrock Rovers, they're the few exceptions that you go with. It's a somewhat comfortable, somewhat attractive night out. Where if you're asking for them prices with the likes of Finn Harps, Dundalk, even my own club, St. Pat's out Richmond, has fallen apart. The poor girl. Yeah, but at least you're going to Derry City, you're getting some sort of comfort.
Okay, right. We'll come back to that at the end, Nathan. Neil, we have 2 games, Armenia and we have Scotland away. What team would you like to see? We'll start off really with goalkeeper. Does Kelleher keep that spot now? Albeit you don't know what's going to happen in pre-season anyhow, but there's only going to be a couple of games under the belt. So if Bazunu was playing for Southampton, Mark Travers is playing for Bournemouth, and Kelleher is on the bench, does he go for Kelleher and go?
Well, that's actually a pretty hard decision to make, to be brutally honest with you. I find it very difficult to answer questions about Kelleher without my Liverpool hat on. But I will say he is a different class of cool. I think his distribution tonight was it was on a nutshell. Every single ball wasn't hoof, even the ones he clipped in just always seemed to find an Irish jersey, which was great. I think he did well, a couple of good saves with his feet. Maybe a questionable goal that he conceded against Ukraine from that cross, come shot, whatever it was, that might stick in the back of your mind. Bazunu has done absolutely nothing wrong. I would reckon it's between them two. I don't think Travers is in the equation yet, although after a full season of Premier League, we might argue different. It's hard to say, Roy. I have to say, I'd stick with Keller just because he's played the last few, and I don't think there's an argument which we normally would say he's not getting game time at his club because, as you say, it'll be early enough in the season. They'll have a load of pre-season. He'll have a lot of games under his belt by then. I'd probably stick with him, but I wouldn't lose sleep if he decided to flip to Bazunu. I think they're equally as good.
Yeah, Nathan Kelleher hasn't put a foot wrong in the 4 games. So if you were looking for something to try and shift him out of the team, there's nothing there. He's done really well.
Now, I know I'm a stickler for it. You have to be playing regular club football to get into the Ireland team, but Neil does make a good point that they're going to be coming fresh off their pre-season tour. You'd imagine he'd be playing a lot of games. Depends if this Bazunu, the move to Southampton works out, which I hope it does. Be a brilliant move from him. Like Fraser Forrester just gone to Tottenham. Alex McCarthy, he's done very well last season for Southampton between the sticks, but what's he, 32 now? He's getting there a little bit. Where I think Bazunu was good enough to get into that Manchester City team down the line. I just don't think he'd be afforded the opportunity if he sticks around there. So the move does make sense. But yeah, it will be difficult at that stage to try and get Kelleher out. I feel bad for Mark Travers. I really do, that we can't have him in a conversation because he's been so consistent for Bournemouth, getting promotion with him to the Premier League. But he's just unlucky, isn't he? Just with the calibre of competition that he's come up against.
Yeah, absolutely. Mightn't do any harm. We can focus on his Premier League season, which is going to be a huge season for him. So, and he'll definitely be there, and he'll do a good job for it to come in. So we have great cover there. But Nathan, we have great cover in the back three, don't we? I mean, you look at it. You have Duffy, you have O'Shea, you've got Collins, you've got Coleman who can play in there, and the numerous others who have played there now in the last couple of games, including tonight. So I'm giving you the back three. Who slots in there for the first game against Armenia or Scotland?
Yeah, I was about to say thanks for stitching me up there, but now in fairness to Neil, he got the more difficult task of getting the goalkeeper. And you know what as well, Roy, would be interesting for me, and the name we didn't mention there was Jimmy Dunn, and it'd be interesting to see in terms of game time how he gets on in the championship with Burnley, because he's again another very talented centre back that we have. Going with the back three, Egan for me is the first name on the team sheet, so Egan goes in there. I've been impressed with Collins. Bar the Armenia game, we had a couple of iffy moments in the first half against Armenia. But I think you'd have to go with Collins, wouldn't you? Now we're getting into it. Duffy O'Shea. Do you know what? I'll go with Duffy for now. But I really do think he's going to be under question of how much game time is he going to get with Brighton in the new campaign. It's going to be a really big season for him if it's time to move on and go elsewhere for game time, because I really do think that will affect his position in Ireland. Just with the host of names you mentioned there, Roy, it's going to be difficult to justify keeping him in that starting 11 if the likes of O'Shea, Jimmy Dunn, John Egan are playing on a consistent base. Lenihan, there you go. The names keep on coming. Yeah,
so we're not doing too bad in that position now, and we're starting to build a bit of a team here. Paul has a comment he wants to make. He says if Kevin Kelleher wants to be Ireland number one, surely he has to be number one for a club and play 40 plus senior games next. Neil, it does come down to that, where he's going to have to play at some stage, because Bazunu has made it clear he wants to play first team football. Mark Travers is playing first team football. He can't go through a couple more seasons into the European qualifiers and not be playing football.
No, and look, like we've discussed this on the show a couple of times with Dave as well around Liverpool's situation. So I think for me, it's very clear at the moment Liverpool cannot be without Kevin Kelleher, because they do not have a trustworthy backup, because Adrian is not it. They don't trust him, and that's why Kelleher is number two. So the question then for him is, and I don't think it needs to be done this year, but you would be looking a year out now saying, okay, do you want to get out there and make yourself a number one in a club? I would always go for the Thibaut Courtois situation, what he did at Chelsea. When Petr Cech was there, they sent him packing off the feckin' Spain. He built up a profile. He came back one of the best keepers, and then they brought him back in. I'd love something like that for Kelleher. Obviously, you need to get the same type of team that plays from the back, the same style, the calmness that he can show as good attributes. But I do agree with Paul there that at some stage that he has to draw that line in the sand before it's too late. Now, when too late is it this year? Is it next year? And then does it just become a statistic that he was, a great number two and we never seen him? So that to me would be a shame. From a Liverpool perspective, I definitely think they need him there until they bring in another number 2. But then
Would
he
they
has to make a call.
would they leave him sit for a while instead of send him to a Premier League club, or would they be looking to push him outside of that? And I mean, he doesn't want to go Championship, really. He does want to go because he's too good for a Championship. And what I mean, I don't mean he's too good for it, but what I mean is he is capable of playing at the highest level. So he should be looking for a club who are playing at the highest level. Is that the case that Liverpool wouldn't want them playing in the Premier League against them?
Possibly, Roy, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to have to be selfish at some stage, because, you know, what Klopp is doing at the moment is he's keeping the best of both worlds, because let's be honest, he is never going to get in ahead of Alisson. He'll play the FA Cup, Carabao Cup, or whatever way. Sorry, even Carabao Cup, not even FA Cup. Maybe the qualifiers next year. And then that would be his all. That would be the exact, a carbon copy of this season will be as good as it gets for Kelleher, that he reaches a final and gets to kind of up his profile. So Klopp is being selfish, and rightly so, because he needs to know if Alisson picked up a knock, you know, on a Friday evening or in a midweek Champions League game, he needs to know there's a guy to deputise that you're not worried about. And I tell you, man, you worry about Adrian when he's in the back line. So he has to cover his bases. And then from Kelleher's perspective, equally, he needs to be selfish, because his next move within the next beat, again, it's not an immediate thing, but within a year, he needs to be selfish and look after number 1 to make sure that he develops his career and doesn't just become one of these guys that you forget about in 3 years' time. And everyone's saying James Bazunu for Southampton is great for Ireland and Travers is a great number 2. Whatever happened to Kelleher? So he'll have to be selfish at some stage to make the best decision for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think, Nathan, we can agree that Josh Cullen has probably been the find of Stephen Kenny's reign, and in all fairness, if you put Nathan Collins and himself in there, they're probably the two players who were probably the best players that we had in the 4 games. I think Josh Cullen has been outstanding in these games. So I don't think Malumbi, if you can say it if you want to, if you think Jeff Hendricks could get in, or someone else. Alan Brown is someone that, as you said, is on the right hand side. It's not his natural position, so is he someone that could slot in there as well? Who would you see in those 2 positions? I'm nearly telling you that it should be Malumbi and Cullen.
Yeah. No, it is, isn't it? It definitely is Malumbi and Cullen. I think you could put Brown in the right hand side. I'm actually glad you mentioned Cullen. I was having a chat with one of the lads there earlier, and obviously Cullen playing at Anderlecht doing really, really well. I was saying to you before, Roy, when he went over there, I thought he'd get missing, you know, out of sight, out of mind, but thankfully he hasn't, because he's been a revelation since coming in, and that's it. Like I said with John Egan, the first name of the team sheet, Cullen's in that conversation as well. Do you think we'll see him move to Burnley with the news of Vincent Kompany?
I thought of that today. I really hope he doesn't. I really hope he doesn't. I think it'd be the worst move ever if he went and joined Vincent Kompany there, because there's no doubt Vincent Kompany could be gone in 4 or 5 months and he'd be stuck in Burnley. They don't want that. He's over in Anderlecht. Stay there, play. You know, look at some other team. You know, someone like Newcastle could come in and look for you. You know, that's the type of thing he needs to be looking at now. Raise your level. Don't go Championship first of all. He's playing Anderlecht. He's in European football. Stick with that. No, I'm not having it.
And not only Championship, Roy, but a Championship side are looking likely that are going to go back up to the Premier League the first time of asking, just with the amount of high profile players that's on the chopping block and on the release list. Now I just want to throw it out there, just as having a chat with one of the lads. He reckons that should definitely do it, get him into the English game, but now I think it's absolutely mental. Stay where you are. You're playing regular football at a good European level and playing in the likes of the Europa League. So yeah,
it's like Kelleher. Any move has to be well thought out. You can't just move for the sake of it. They've got to have a move that's suits the style of the player. I mean, if you have someone who's a little bit more direct, that Josh Cullen's out of that team. He's no good to that team. You know, it's a bit like what happened to Robbie Keane. They had with Liverpool. They had players up front. They didn't need him. They were trying to play him on the left. Benitez didn't want him. He was gone. So if Cullen goes to a team that bypasses the midfield a little bit quicker than he would like, it's a poor move. So he really has to think about it. And Kompany may go there now and start to get them playing football, and he might try to entice them. Listen, Burnley, I'm fairly sure, will give more wages than Anderlecht, and that'll be a big factor. But if I was him, I'd be holding out. It must be an awful lot of teams looking at him.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, to get back to my long-winded answer, between the midfield, yeah, would definitely be Cullen, Malumbi, and I think Robert Brown as well. And also, I'd have my eye on some of the 21 lads, see how they can get
Well,
on.
now you have Jason. You have Jason Knight there, so
Knight's another one as well.
and you have Hendricks. Obviously, you know what I'm saying to you about Hendricks is I think Hendricks can. You know, tonight he came on and he's energy, whatever energy he has, he's just helping see out that game. But I wasn't even amazed at what he did when he came on. Anyhow, when he gets on the ball, he's actually okay. He's not bad in that sort of thing. But that's where you need him as the number 10, the centre attacking midfield, where he's off a one centre forward and he's trying to link up and what have you. But having defensive role, I just don't see it. I don't think
he's a luxury player, Roy. I can't see him getting into that type of team. And it was chalk and cheese the way they closed down the midfielders, the way they closed down, and then when Hendricks come on, he's very passive in his defending.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not getting in at Newcastle. He couldn't get in for half the season with QPR, half of the half season with QPR. So I'm fairly sure Jeff is going to be tumbling down the leagues fairly quickly. So with that three, would you go Brown or Knight, Nathan? Obviously, you know, I go Knight. I do think there's a role for Brown there somewhere. But then again, this squad thing where he's getting them to work really hard on the pitch, you have to have people to come on to do that exact same job.
Yeah, it's a shot in the dark really between the two of them, isn't it? Depending where you want them to play. I think Brown will be seeing tonight out on the right hand side is much more comfortable, where for me it's Knight out on the left. Yeah, it really is toss up between the two of them.
Would you leave Brown out wide right?
He looked good tonight, didn't he? He looked
quite good in the last two games.
Yeah, looked comfortable out there where Seamus is getting. You can never knock Seamus for what he done in Ireland jersey, but you could see it in his past couple. I think it was the Ukraine game in particular. He really looked lost out there. Matt Doherty's going to hold down that position when he gets back from his injury, but yeah, to have Allen out there as a potential backup. We don't know Obama Deli as well, so to come back in from injury, he's really versatile in those positions as well. But yeah, I think to have Allen as over in that area would be good.
Wing back, Snail.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Matt Doherty. I think hopefully he comes back from the injury in the kind of vein. I think he was in great vein of form for Spurs. He broke his way into Spurs team under Conte, which is no mean feat. He would be my number one. I'd have had him ahead of Coleman maybe as a wing back a long time ago, whatever about a back four. Left side, I think we're lacking a little, and it shows maybe with James McLean in there now. We need to kind of blood someone else. Who was on the bench tonight? Was it Stevens?
Well, Stevens, yeah. And they have, I mean, Lenihan can play in that position too, can't he?
Right. I haven't seen him play if he does.
I think he has played there before. But
I know they played
your natural footed player, that's who you kind of have there. And of course, Matt Doherty can play there too.
Matt Doherty played there and played well, Roy, actually, in a couple of games. So I guess you can't count him out for that as well. But another naturally left-sided option would be nice as well, you know.
Yeah. Is Conor Hourhan gone, Nathan? I just forgot about he came on the pitch, but is he gone from your starting positions in that midfield role?
He'd probably be gone from the squad, Roy. I mind the starting 11. I don't have a bit of a stick for 21s, like the Will Smallbone, Conor Coventry.
It's a big step up for them, though, Nathan. You know.
Yeah, but we're seeing with Coventry in particular, he got his long things with MK Dons. He impressed down there. Smallbone's been unlucky with injuries. He's going to have to get a long move away from Southampton, see how he gets on. Even Conor Ronan, again, along with St Mirren, he tended to do well. I think there's far too many younger midfielders that can do a similar job to Conor Hourhan to be justifying his position. If
Liam Scales can get a position, Neil, with Aberdeen and play a season through, that could be someone there because he's so good at going forward. That could be a left-sided player who could bring us some sort of something down the line, who could defend as well, because as much as James McLean, listen, I like James McLean. I like all he does on the pitch. He uses every ounce of his ability and he does a good job. And to tell you the truth, he's solid in his performances. He's rarely absolutely shit and he's rarely absolutely brilliant. He's normally just hard working, gets the ball, whips crosses in. Obviously at fault for the goal today because he fell asleep and let your man in behind him. And that's why I think you need a more defensive kind of attacking fullback in that position.
Yeah, and I think Brown summed that up tonight, didn't he? Because it wasn't like he was overlapping and getting to the byline and pulling back crosses, but what he did on the ball, and sometimes you kind of get that when you have a very comfortable midfielder out on the wing, they just become better on the ball and more relaxed, and they see a pass, they have more time. So yeah, I'd agree with you on McLean. I think look, his powers are beginning to wane. Like he was a flying left winger at one stage, but you can't doubt his commitment and what he's done in the green shorts. So you'll never say anything bad about him, but he is kind of on his last kind of move in an Irish side. Like that's the only place you could see him being played. Like I couldn't see him being played there if we ever went to a back four. He definitely does a job, a stable job, but it would be nice to have that next kind of step up, that younger, hungrier, naturally left-sided player to come in and give him a bit of competition, then eventually take over.
Yeah, okay, Nathan. If we're playing three in the midfield, then it's only two up front. Scott Hogan obviously starts.
Yeah, you put him in the Horahan camp. Just yeah, he can join the Horahan.
I feel sorry for him because he's going out there and he's working hard. He worked hard today. He did his closing down. He pressed people.
He as well at a few
he
times,
did.
Didn't he?
Yeah, no, he did.
Yeah.
But
And even Will Keane at club level has been very impressive, but just the Ireland show just so one dimensional.
But they just seem just a bit below that level.
Yeah, the two of them they would put about Will Keane and Scott Hogan in that group, especially in an Ireland jersey. Yeah, I'm going with a front two. Off these four games, I think it'd be hard not to go with Obafemi. Even away from the goal against Scotland was great. And we actually never talked about. Neil sort of touched on the high balls against Scotland in particular that had purpose to it. His assist for the Troy Parrott goal in particular was absolutely brilliant. He's doing really well at Swansea at the moment at club level. He hope he can keep that up going into the new championship season. Yeah, he's in there for me. The question is who goes beside him. Because I've been impressed with Troy Parrott for this whole run of the Nations League games. So I'd probably go with them two, just off the back of
that year. MK Dons, Nathan, has done him the world of good, hasn't it?
He's the new Robbie Keane, mate. You know, the internet was right the whole time.
Not sure if he's the new Robbie Keane now, but he's definitely a player that can.
He has. Now, in fairness, he has done. He looked a player that was desperate for a move away from Tottenham. The loan move to MK Dons, it was better than jumping the gun and selling him straight away. I still think he's not going to get into that Tottenham team anytime soon. He's getting up to that age now where he needs to be going out and playing, like Paul was saying with Kelleher, needs to be playing regular games on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and the same with the other two. He needs to get a club again that suits him. He's done League One, now probably needs to go Championship and step it up. And I mean, there's no experience better than playing, and he's getting kicked left, right, and centre. He's learning how to protect himself in the games now. So that's going to be benefit for Ireland. So we want him to get kicked left, right, and centre in at least the Championship next year. You have Scott Hogan, you have Callum Robinson, you have obviously Ogbene. Again, when you look at the team, Neil, there's players in behind the players, let alone the older players. There's younger players coming in behind the younger players that are already in the team, and there's a squad starting to build. And if you look at the under 21s, a couple of them are going to have to make their way up over the next couple of years. If there's a style of play, if there's an attitude, and they've all worked with Stephen Kenny, it just means that there is a group that's forming and building here, and they all have an idea of what way they want to be played.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think so far he's got the goalkeeper, the defence and the midfield more or less sorted. I think that's why we're all sitting here. We're not really disagreeing with each other over who you play so far. The only ones I'd say is up front. It's still really, really up for grabs. Like, Obafemi comes out in the new year, has a drought in front of goal. He seems to be a very kind of a confidence player with the kind of history that's gone on. Play me and Deadly. So, Deadly, you're playing great. We'll play and no problem, score goals for us. But you wouldn't nail down any of them. I wasn't sure if Nathan was going to pick Troy Parrott. Based on this Nations League, yes. But other than that, there's still question marks. I think they're all young. They're all hungry. There's massive competition. And I think the great part of it is each one of them players goes out to that Ireland squad and thinks to themselves, I'm going to get into this team, and it's all I have to do is grab it. There's an opportunity there for two of them to grab their opportunity and take it and go with it. But as a kind of a nation at the moment, that's the one thing I think we're lacking, is that notified go-to striker or double striker or front three, wherever it is. I think that's what's hampering us, and that's what's going to be our Achilles heel, is getting that balance right. And hopefully one of them just comes out on top and really hits the ground running. So we're not debating it anymore. It would be Troy Parrott, he's your man, and who goes with him. So that's the big one for me now. Kenny needs to get this right over the next couple of months.
Yeah, let's hope they hit the ground running now and bring it on to club form for both of those players. But not only them, the players around them as well, because it's definitely a squad game. You can see that now with even the substitutions that were played tonight. You need people working hard and coming onto a pitch and not sauntering around, pressing and chasing and making sure when they get on the ball that they have that cool head as well. So, Nathan, we'll finish off with this because Jacob wanted to talk to us about it. So the League of Ireland in Europe is my favourite time of the year. Since I was a whippersnapper, I used to always watch the draws. He says, a great draw for Rovers and Sligo in Europe, a very happy League of Ireland fan. He doesn't think Derry will go through. What's your thoughts on the draws? And you may shout them out in case Neil doesn't know about it. Neil's a bit of a football League of Ireland snob.
This is my time to shine now. I sat here for 15 minutes blagging my way through international football.
Where's my Google?
I really much in agreement with what Jacob said. I think both Sligo would be happy with a draw to Ballatown in Wales. Derry City, difficult draw away to Riga. They got as far, I think, as the playoffs in the last the Rover Conference League last season. Shamrock Rovers away to Hibernian. Not that Hibernian, Neil. There's another one in Malta.
Really?
Yeah, you'd be upset no, it's not. I do agree with them. All eyes on tomorrow, the St. Pat's draw tomorrow afternoon, the second qualifying round for the Conference League. Yeah, it's not looking good for Pats. There's a couple of iffy ones there. You're trying to separate what do we want from... Do we want a winnable tie to go through and make more money? Or do I want a good trip away with my mates? Because there's an opportunity to play Slavia Prague. So you're trying to... That's going to be an absolutely brilliant trip away, but there's not a chance Pats are going to beat Slavia Prague over 2 legs. So yeah, it'd be difficult to see, but I think.
But they get through, Nathan. If they get through, isn't it something like 800 grand or something? Yeah. Are they already guaranteed 800 grand being in the Champions League? I think, and then they could. I think they are, and then I think it's 1.3 million if they get in the next round. So they're guaranteed 800,000 win or lose. 1.3 million if they get through to the next round. But the other clubs, I think, who was it gets. Someone the conference lads get 250,000. Am I wrong? Is that right? Yeah.
If they progress, like even you look at Shamrock Rovers last year from the Champions League and your Waper Conference League exploits, they were the same as Riga. They got as far as the playoffs. They made like 1.5 million on the qualification alone, which is, in the League of Ireland is mega money, you know. So they'll be looking to progress further into that one. And again, they'll find out their fate tomorrow in terms of the second qualification round, see who they can play. There's a chance you could play Olympiacos. Again, you want to be avoiding. You want to just get as far as possible to really make the most money. But the one advantage that Shamrock Rovers have, they're now on this championship route, where even if they do get beaten in the fourth qualification round of the Champions League, they'll drop back down to the Europa Conference League. So again, more money making opportunities there for Shamrock Rovers. But I think they'll be happy. I think Shamrock Rovers will be happy with their draw. I think it is a winnable game. Hibernian, they're coming off. They won the Malta Premier League again. It was the 13 titles. So there'll be no pushovers by any means. But yeah, I'll be looking at both of the Rovers teams to progress to the next round. I think Derry will struggle though. It's a difficult time for Derry City.
Yep. Okay. And we'll talk about that on the League of Ireland podcast, which will be out this week as well. Neil, thanks very much for your time on that. Nathan, also, thanks very much. Oh, look, can't wait to go away in Europe.
I wouldn't mind. I clocked the Pat's crest there from the minute you put it into the chat. So there we are, mate. Hopefully.
More interested in the trip than the money. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, that's what I mean. As soon as the draw
it's all about the trip.
As soon as the draw came out, I was like, oh man, Prague. I want to go to Prague again so badly, but I don't want to go to Prague because we'd be spanked over 2 legs. So yeah, we'll see. I'm only after figuring that one out. Come on, you Super Saints. Obviously that's what that means. So and Paul, Jacob as well, thanks very much for everyone who contributed tonight, and we will talk to you next week. Oh yes, freeze. This show again.
Come on.
Never normally took this long. It's getting awkward now, isn't it?
Shocking.